Uncle Roddus back with more records to show, another video. It is late November, well, late-ish November. Yeah, okay, so, wow, it's really, records are streaming and there is a lot happening. Yeah, my plan for the start of the year has gone completely out the window. Well, what with COVID again, but yeah, I sort of haven't been paying that extra stuff on my mortgage a bit because of the part of the COVID thing, which put a stop to that, but also because I've been buying too many friggin' records because there's so much coming up, there's so much good stuff coming up. I'm still hitting the Flying Nun. There is a lot of Flying Nun stuff coming up for sale on Trade Me. God, it's expensive. Yeah, I really got a bit hard for it, but I have won a few, probably paid a bit too much for a few, but I have shown a lot of those. But this cropped up what's playing behind me, and really pleased to add this to my compilation collection. Now I do have it on CD. It was fairly easy to get on CD, but the vinyl has been a bit more elusive, and it was released in 2012. Flying Nun compilation Flying Nun LP 518. It's a compilation put together and curated by Bruce Russell from the Dead Sea, and it's a compilation where he is exploring the psychedelic influences on the Flying Nun in the New Zealand music scene at the time. So he's picked specific tracks that he thinks have a real psychedelic, 60s psychedelic influence, and he's not wrong, I believe. Yeah, if you really listen to it, it's there. Some people don't quite see it, but it's there if you listen carefully. Yeah, so time to go, the Southern Psychedelic Movement from 1981 to 86. So this is the early Flying Nun, so there is a lot of classic Flying Nun stuff here. This is the Pin Group playing behind me, and more about them soon. The Clean, the Gordons, the Builders, the Victor Dimish Band, the Tall Dwarfs, the Chills, the Stones, the Great Unwashed, Scorched Earth Policy, Look Blue, Go Purple, Double Happies, and plus more. Really pleased to do it. This wasn't cheap, but it was actually brand new sealed, so someone had obviously come into some brand new copies that had never been sold, and they were sealed up, and he sold two of them. I missed out bidding on the first one, and then next thing I know it appeared again, and I got it on the second one, and no one actually bid against me on the second one. A friend on Facebook actually bid against me on it and won the first one. Not a friend, a guy I know on a group. Sorry, there was a friend, another Facebook friend was bidding against another one, which I'll get to in a minute. So yeah, really good compilation of early Flying Nun stuff. Awesome to have this for my New Zealand compilation collection. So it's just arrived today, is two brand new records. The first one is a reissue of Tiny Ruin's debut LP from 2011, Some Were Meant for Sea. So this is the first time I've had a copy of this. I'm familiar with a couple of tracks off it that I've heard over the years. I never jumped on this earlier on, it was a bit before my collecting for vinyl 2011 was, but I saw Tiny Ruins, her name is Holly Fulbrook. I saw her live. I'd heard a couple of tracks on the internet. Saw her live play at Castle's Blue Smoke, and about 4 or 5 years ago now. And to be honest, I was underwhelmed. I was quite underwhelmed, and I didn't even stay for the whole gig. And she had a band supporting her. She was, I don't know. Maybe it was partly me. I wasn't in space or whatever, but a couple of other people commented that they thought some of her gigs had been a bit lackluster. But anyway, a few years later, she put out a thing called her third LP called Olympic Girls, and that was really good. And I really enjoyed some of the music that I heard on that, and I did end up buying a copy. And then I ended up seeing her play live last year with her very good friend Nadia Reid, and I love Nadia Reid, and I've had most of Nadia's albums, and they played together in town, and I talked about that probably on a video at the time. So this is reissued on this lovely light green translucent vinyl. I say this is the 10th anniversary edition. And I was really impressed with her as, you know, just the two girls on the stage, a woman on the stage solo. Holly, I mean, Tiny Ruins she is an absolutely stunning guitar player. I was absolutely blown away by her guitar playing. Yeah, she was doing some fantastic stuff. I mean, and Nadia and her, they were old friends. They used to flat together. Blah blah blah. They know each other really well. They played really well together. Nadia is probably the better songwriter and maybe a little bit the better singer. But Holly's got some great songs, especially off her new LP, and she is a much better guitarist. Really good. So I'll get to grips with this. I don't, like I say, I haven't heard most of it. I've only heard a few tracks off it, plus what I've just played it tonight. And also tuned up today is this new Roy Montgomery record. Now, you just heard playing behind me the Pin Group, which was the very first band to release. So that was their track Jim. That was their second single. The Pin Group's first single was Ambivalence, and that was the very first release on the Flying Nun label. Now he is also celebrating, along with Flying Nun, of course, who are celebrating their 40th anniversary, which I've talked about several times over the last few months. And is what's really inspired me to get into my Flying Nun and playing all my Flying Nun records. And so he's also celebrating 40 years in the music industry, and he has 4 albums to be released this year. And the third of those has turned up today. There is one more to come, but I can't see it getting released before the end of the year, or if it does, it certainly won't probably turn up. But earlier in the year he produced the first one. The first one was at the start of the year, quite earlier on, and that is this one. This is Island of Lost Souls. Now, I love these covers. These covers are fantastic. Trudy Cameron is the artist who seems to be on all of the covers, and it certainly looks like her work in all of them. Her name is certainly mentioned on this one. Yeah, this is really cool artwork. It's very, very busy and colourful. Yeah, really cool. So this one was an all-instrumental record of Roy doing his thing with his guitar effects and his echoes and stuff like that. Really good, cool record. And then later on he put out this one. This is the second volume. And again, yes, Trudy Cameron is the cover artist. So this one is called The Best Forgotten Work. I had shown these earlier in the year, and it actually goes, I guess, like that. And this one is on, they're all on coloured vinyl, I believe. This one is on this cool orange vinyl. So these are really cool records, and I just played the next one I'm going to show you is the one that's just arrived today, and I just played it before, and it is really good. Really, really good. So Roy's doing the first one was instrumental. Roy's doing a lot of singing on this one, and he's also doing some singing on the last one, but he's also got another lady who's done a lot of work for Emma Johnson, who he put out a record together with her a couple of years ago. He's been really prolific the last few years. This one is on very dark green. Yeah, very dark green vinyl. And so he's been very prolific over the last few years, putting out quite a lot of music actually. Suffuse's last record that he put out, was it last year? And that was really good. And then the one with Emma Johnson the year before that. I mean, he's been 40 years in the business. He hasn't got a lot of recordings out, so I certainly on vinyl. I think he's got a bit more on the Bandcamp and stuff like that. But to be honest, yeah, he was in a lot of other groups. And then finally today, this is, like I say, this is the third volume. Again, artwork by Trudy Cameron. Rhymes of Chance, Roy Montgomery featuring Emma Johnson. I really enjoyed this tonight. First listen, really cool, and again, fantastic artwork. So looking forward to the last one. So that's a great colourful series of records to have, and this one is on this translucent light blue. And again, in the garden, the art on the inner sleeves. So fantastic stuff, absolutely fantastic, very interesting music. Now, on Trade Me, things have been happening a bit on Trade Me, and I have been picking up quite a lot of stuff, and I've also got quite a lot of stuff that I'm putting in bids for at the moment, and I won another. I showed those fantastic Flying Nun EPs that I won, Flying Nun stuff I won, and I showed on a video a while back. Well, it'll be a while back by the time you get to see this video, because I probably won't post this for several months. But so another seller I know about in the community, he's getting rid of a lot of. He has probably got the biggest New Zealand music collection, and his Discogs listing is up to 7,000 records, and most of them in New Zealand. I have an itchy nose. He was selling a lot of his seconds and stuff like that, and he was putting $1 reserve on them, and so you would bid from $1 up, and yeah, the bidding wasn't too bad, and so I picked up a bunch of pretty obscure and unknown stuff to me, EPs and some vinyl records and some compilation LPs. And okay, so the first one is this one. It's called Precious, and the band's called Precious. It is a 5-piece guitar band, bass band. It's fairly hard rocky, poppy hard rock 80s. This is from the 80s. Distributed by J-Ren. This was actually a pleasant surprise. I didn't know what to expect, but I actually quite enjoyed it. It's got commercial, they were trying to be successful commercially, and so it's got commercial potential, but it never fulfilled it. So yeah, I'm glad to, and these weren't cheap, expensive. They were, I got some of these for $10-12 each, so you don't see them in the shop. I've never seen any of these in the shops. I didn't even know what some of them were. This one's called Raw Deal on Circular Records, which I believe is a self. Oh, that's right. Circular Records released a lot of Roger Fox's stuff back in the day, in the 80s and late 70s or 80s. So this is Raw Deal. Roger Fox plays on this on a couple of tracks. So this is listed as jazz rock on Discogs, and it is quite jazzy. The first track, B Train, 5 minutes 20 instrumental rock jazz track, is really good. I really enjoyed it. The other two of the other tracks are vocal pop rock vocal tracks, and they're very 80s, and I'm a bit ambivalent about those two. And then the other instrumental track is a 4-minute 18 track. Again, Roger Fox joins the band. This is the band at their biggest with some trombones, tenors, trumpets and saxophone and alto saxophones. That's more of a jazzy thing. It's not quite as good as the B Train track. So, but those two instrumentals are pretty good. The rest of it's average, although there's a real funny track at the end, just a minute long, which is a bit of a comedy thing, which was quite impressive. So yeah, I think that was worth having. I didn't pay a lot of money for it. So the EPs, 2 more EPs I picked up. I got 8 records off this guy, and he's done a whole bunch more, which I'm bidding on this week. A Pie and a Pint, No Clapping. This is on Ode Records. Now, I don't generally buy Ode Records stuff that's more poppy stuff, because their stuff's generally middle of the road, and this one's a little bit like that. It's a bit folksy. I had a quick listen to it. It wasn't too bad. It'll need a few more listens, but never heard of them. No idea what they were or who they were. Yeah, picked it up for about $10, $12, something like that. So what has it got? 6 songs by the looks of it. No, sorry, 5 songs. Yeah, 5 songs on that one. And then the last of the EPs, and I knew about this one. I'd heard this one on Chris's radio show. Another, 6 tracks there. The Jonas. This was 1987 on a label called Burnt Offering. I don't know why I thought this was a Meltdown record, to be honest. I'm not sure why I thought that. Maybe I was getting confused with the Remarkables. Someone else had a Remarkables record for sale, but it turned out to be the 7-inch, not the 12, and so I wasn't that interested. I'm only interested in the 12-inch EPs. I mean, I don't really generally go for 12-inch singles with a song each side either. You know, I'd rather have a few more tracks to play. So yeah, the Jonas, I think this is pretty much their only release, Bills of Happiness. I do know a song that, I don't know which one it was, that I've heard off this track, but I haven't actually played that one yet. Right, and then so delving into the keeping it totally obscure, and I mean obscure even within New Zealand, believe it or not. And I mean, this is the country of obscure music, pretty much. The Inhalers, a debut record in 1989, 1990. It must have been released in 1990 because it was. EQ mix in 1990, August. But tracks recorded in 1988 and 1989. Never heard of them, I had no idea. I actually thought it was an EP, but it turns out it's actually a full LP. This is kind of a bit, I don't know, joke rock, but it's actually really good. So we got songs like Eric Clapton, Died in My Arms, Alan Parsons, Had My Baby, Nico on a Bike, cover version of Me and Mrs. Jones, Pope of the Boat Shoes, John Markey's Grave, stuff like that. A couple of covers, the June Brides, Every Conversation, but most of it is original stuff. And it's a little bit jokey, but it's actually quite good. It's pretty quirky pop music actually. They did put out another record on CD a bit later on. I don't think it was on vinyl. I can't remember. So that was a very interesting find, quite intriguing, and looking forward to playing it some more and getting a bit more familiar with it. So really not. So I was pretty. A lot of these were blind buys, and I'm being quite impressed with what I found. Now this one's even better actually. Now this one I knew about. It was on my want list. Acoustic Confusion, Hazy Days. This is a record that they put out in 1984. This is real folksy stuff. This is we've got guitar, mandolin, harmonica, mandolin, and then we got bass and congas and percussion. So it's very folksy, but it's really good. Most of the tracks are originals, apart from Skip James and the Chuck Berry cover. But pretty much the rest of the stuff is original material, and it was put out on RealGroovy Records in 1984. RealGroovy Records is one of our major record shops in Auckland, New Zealand, in our biggest city. They used to have a shop down in Wellington, which I visited many years ago, and then they also had a shop here in Christchurch when they brought out my old favourite haunting ground, Echo Records, back in the 90s, late 90s. Although they closed down after the earthquake and their shop was wrecked and a lot of their stock was lost and stuff like that. So this was their very first record that they put out, because there have been a few records released by record shops, and Rough Peel Music in Wellington have put out quite a lot of records over the last few years. And there was a shop in Christchurch called Radar Records, and they put out a few records back in the day. This was the very first RealGroovy. So I have some other RealGroovy. They've been doing a few compilations over the last sort of 10 years. I mean, they've only got probably less than a dozen releases over the last 35 plus years, but this was the very first one, and I'm really pleased with this. This was a really good score. And again, picked it up fairly cheap. And then finally, two compilations that I have been one I've been trying to get hold of for a long time. This was on my want list for a while. Wellington Zone. This is reasonably hard to get, although it turns out the guy that I got this off has another copy that he put up. But like I say, he's got the biggest record collection of New Zealand music in the country, I suspect, with over 7,000 listings. So he's got a lot of double ups and plus more copies. So he's flicking a few of those out there. So this was a little bit more pricey, but it's actually, yeah, it is quite a hard one to get. It's all live recordings. The digits and the steroids I really didn't know anything about, and I don't think they don't have a lot of recordings outside of this. The Mockers were a really big band in the early 80s in New Zealand. I don't particularly like them, and then I don't own any of their other records. But this was a very early recording of theirs live. And then Beat Rhythm Fashion, they put out a bunch of 45s, which are very, very collectible and rather expensive if you can find them, and they have come up for sale recently. But yeah, I'm not worried about that. They were on Beat Rhythm Fashion. I'm pretty sure they were on. I think they're on another compilation that I've got. Were they on the 4 Stars compilation that came out, was reissued recently? That's a fantastic Wellington compilation. I don't know. I'm a bit disappointed with this. I need to listen to it a few more times and see if it's going to grow on me. So they are live stuff, recorded live especially for the album. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit uncertain on whether I really like that one enough. But I will keep it because it's a pretty important one. It's a pretty hard to get one, and it's a compilation, and I'm collecting compilations. And then finally this compilation also I picked up for fairly cheap. And I had seen this in Penny Lane. I had no idea what it was, and it sat around in the shelves for quite some time, and I didn't really get to jump on it because and one of the reasons I didn't, because it was put out in 1980 by Radio Avon, if you see there. Radio Avon was a real MOR station, this was back in, like when I was a kid. I remember Radio Avon, and Dad used to listen to Radio Avon. It was in the AM band in those days. And they was, pretty middle of the road stuff, And certainly when I was a trendy young teenager in my early teens listening to the ZM station, which was playing all the really shit hot new stuff at the time, like, they were playing Devo's Whip It, and they were playing the My Sex songs and Ice House from Australia and that sort of stuff that I was right into when I was like 13, 14. That this station was a lot more unhip. So that's why I didn't buy this and that. But it sort of cropped up on Facebook, and I looked at the actual track listing, and none of the people on it I knew anything about. And they were actually quite alternative looking names. Thrush, Vapor in the Trails, Steam Shack, Friar Tuck. So yeah, this is quite unexpected. The music is it's not fantastically great, but there's some interesting stuff on here, and it's not the type of music that you'd expect from Radio Avon. So they were taking a bit of a punt and just helping support a few local musicians. Practically none of these guys went on to record anything outside of this that I'm aware of. Certainly nothing on Discogs. I think only about one of them. But Arnold Van Bussel, he's very well known in New Zealand circles and has been recording and still does record. As a matter of fact, I think his name cropped up on those Roy Montgomery records. He recorded most of these, and he actually plays in one of the bands. So that's about one of the only bands that had anything outside of this compilation. So none of them went on to do anything else, but it's a very interesting little compilation with some quite interesting music. There's a couple of real stinkers on here actually by Kirsty and Lee, the 2 female singers. They're trying to be really pop, really horrible pop, and they are pretty stinkers. But the rest of the tracks are actually quite interesting, and it'll be interesting to see how they grow with familiarity. Alright, that's enough. I've been prattling on for 24 minutes. So I'm about to run out of I'm going to run out of video soon, so I shall move on and see you next time. I've got lots more coming in between now and Christmas. Lots of pre-orders and depending on how I go on these trade me things. Right, catch you next time.